We're in the right place at the right time. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Or as they say in our part of the country, you bravely. That's good, as long as you can understand me. Because Kelly sent me a bit of the press stuff for this here, and it says in the Tyrone Constitution or something, Ulster Scots linguist. There's a couple of ones right in our part of the word. It says, you're going where? I said, I'm going to Omagh. To do what? I says, compare concert. I don't understand one word you said in there. Because I get into awful trouble in this part of the world. I do a wee bit of work with Ulster Scots, and they always talk about the Reverend W.F. Marshall, who you might be familiar with, and some of his work, right? And I always say, you know, you have to remember that the Reverend W.F. spent most of his ministry in Castle Rock, where he would be surrounded by the Ulster Scots language. So when you think about, I'm living in Drumlister and I'm getting very old, I hate to wear an Indian bag to keep me for the cow. And there I'm on this town land was cleaner out than me, and I'm living in Drumlister and clever to the knee. That's the only way you say that. Well, that's the open verse of living in Drumlister, but I got in awful trouble many years ago. And I said it in that broad accent, and somebody says, you're not right. I went, what? Well, it shouldn't be said like that. Well, I says, it'd be a heck of a lot better said like that than like this. She says, what do you mean? I says, well, I'm living in Drumlister and I'm getting very old. I had to wear an Indian bag to keep me for the cow. I says, that doesn't sound right. And she says, do you know what? I agree with you. So anyway, so no matter, if you don't understand what I'm saying, put your hand up and you'll get subtitles. I don't know what's saying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a fantastic night lined up for you tonight. We have got what I call Kenny's Gather Up. He has gone to the highways and byways and dug boys up from here, there and everywhere for the first act that we're going to have tonight, the mass band of the past and present members of the Omagh Protestant Boys. Then we have the Valley of Silver Band. Then we're having a break. Right, because you good for that, then I can go home. Then we're having the Boys Fight in Louis with the Melodians. And we're going to finish off the night with the boys from the present band that are still on the go. So I'm going to hand over to the living legend, that is Kenny Porter. Now, Kenny has been with the band since its inception 50 years ago. I've never seen a man look as well for 80 years of age. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenny Porter.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your 50th anniversary concert. Most of you will be aware that I've been bandmaster since the band was formed in 1976, some 50 years ago. Tonight, I want to share with you a brief history of the band. Now, for those of you that are old enough, cast your memory back to the early 1970s. As a teenager growing up in Northern Ireland, it was indeed a very dangerous place, with communities becoming polarised and each side marking out their own territories. We had bombings, shootings and murders taking place on a daily basis. Our towns and cities became ghost towns after 6 p.m, with everyone staying in their own enclaves. But despite all this, we had some of the best years of our lives. Right across the province, a strange phenomenon was taking place. It wasn't Beatlemania, but bandmania. In almost every town across the country, vibrant flute bands were being formed, mainly consisting of young teenagers dressed in brightly coloured jumpers and berets. Why was this happening? Was it through sheer boredom, or viewed as some sort of security given the political situation that existed in Northern Ireland at that time? Who knows? What happened? It did. With the emphasis on heavy drumming, these bands soon earned the nickname as Blood and Thunder bands, with names such as Sons of Ulster, the Rising Sons of William, Boyne Defenders, the Loyal Defenders and Protestant Boys appearing on the bass drums. By the mid-70s, almost every town had a band of this type. Now it was almost turned. The two gentlemen responsible for starting the first Blood and Thunder band in Omagh in 1975 were Norman Crawford and Ronnie Harkins, with Desi Moore teaching the drums and myself the flute. And it may surprise many of you to learn that this new band was called Omagh Loyal Defenders. It was the forerunner to the Blair Memorial and Omagh Protestant Boys. Now, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to both Norman and Ronnie. Without their vision and support, we would not be celebrating our golden anniversary. We're greatly honoured to have Norman and his wife, Aina, present here this evening, but sadly, due to ill health, Ronnie wasn't able to attend. So, could you just put your hands together and give a big round of applause to Norman and Ronnie, our friends and colleagues. Now, just before I introduce the mass band, which is made up of members of past and present, we're going to show a short video of the year that was 1976. This short video was made back in 2016 for our 40th anniversary, but as the facts remain the same, we thought it was still worth it being shown here tonight. So please enjoy.
Oh, that you more right than me. Come on now, darling, you got something I need. 'Cause I got a friend you come my harvester, and I'll give you the key. Come on now, let's get together in perfect harmony. I got 20 acres, and you got 43. Now I got a friend you come my harvester, and I'll give you the key. See what I laugh? Love will break in my heart. I couldn't if I tried. Oh, honey, if I get restless, baby, you're not that kind. Love will break in my heart. You take the weight off of me. Oh, honey, when you knock on my door, I gave you my key. Ooh, nobody knows it. Oh, I was down, I was a clown. Ooh, nobody knows it. Nobody knows. Right from the start. Friday night and the lights are low, looking out for a place to go, where they play the rock music, getting in the swing. You come to look for the king. Anybody could be that. Country song for fun. When someone played the honky-tonk guitar, where all the lights will go out one by one, the people join the sun, and the wind takes it away. When the Mississippi rolls down to the sea, and lovers found the place they like to be. How many times before the song was ended, love and understanding everywhere around. Mississippi, I'll remember you whenever I should go away. I'll be longing for the day that I will be in Greenville again. Mississippi, you be on my mind. Every time I hear this song, Mississippi roll along until the end of time.
And welcome the mass band of Omagh Protestant Boys. Well, tonight was an old favourite to be back in the 1970s, probably one of our first tunes that we learned at that time. It's called Maggie and Blackboard. Just get warmed up. Some of these guys haven't played a flute in 40 years. I see David Spence in the back row there. He didn't know what way to turn the flute even this time. But anyway, next tune is another wee favourite back then, and it's still very popular today. Ben O'Carrick, Fields of Ulster, and Home in the Range. Chairman, since our formation way back in 1976, I think we've counted somewhere in the region of almost 600 members that's gone through the ranks of the band. So at the moment we have gathered up somewhere around about 70 odd members back. I know they're not all here tonight. I don't good job too because we wouldn't get them in. But anyway, next week one that we're going to go for is the Sea Shanties, Hero, Drunken Sailor and the Weatherman. This is probably the first tune that we ever learned, so we'll see how it goes tonight. Tunes to be traditional tunes. One's Irish and one is Scottish. Mud Cabin and then Road to the Ice. ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the last tune. You might say, oh. We could not leave without playing an orange tune, so you can clap your hands, stamp your feet, or sing along. Sash, my father wore.
Oh, yes, my favourite.
Well, I think that deserves another round of applause. Anybody's that can practice will soon be hard over the last few months, and I'm sure you all agree we certainly did not disappoint. As the band moved into a new decade of the 80s, the uniforms changed from purple jumpers to tunics, members increased twofold, and we were soon to become one of the largest bands in the country with a membership now of over 70. Back then, members hailed from towns and villages such as Sion Mills, Newton Stewart, Plumbridge, Gorton, Fintona, Berra, as well as Omagh. But with the good times came the bad. Tragic would strike in August 1988. On a return home by bus from a parade in Portadown, the band was one of the first in the scene of the Ballygully Road bus bombing. 8 young soldiers aged between 18 and 21 from the 1st Battalion of the Light Infantry lost their lives when they were massacred by the IRA, who detonated a bomb as they were travelling along the Core Road. They were returning back to their barracks in Omagh after being home and leave. It was a scene of sheer carnage, with bodies blown across the road and trapped underneath the bus. A night which many of our band members have never forgot to this day. They administered life-saving first aid in the darkness of night, using the shirts for bandages and the jackets as pillows, and offered comfort to those who sadly did not make it. News media at that time carried much of the harrowing details of that tragic night. One of her 18-year-old flag girls at the time, Julie Baxter, reported how she had thumped the chest of one of the soldiers repeatedly, trying to revive him, only to discover that the bottom half of his body was blown off. Drummer Dick Beckett raced to the bomb bus to help free those trapped. The newspaper reported, and I quote, "They had their heads bent and the bus seemed to be resting on their necks. We lifted the bus and pulled them free. Another soldier was trampled by his feet, so I crawled onto the bus, grabbed his ankles and yanked his feet free, leaving his shoes behind." Another drummer, Mark Connor, told the News of the World how he had nursed the soldier for 45 minutes, holding his head, and I quote, "His legs and chest were ripped open. At a couple of times he lost consciousness, so I gently slapped his face to bring him round. He kept asking about his mates." Later on, a policeman had asked Mark to help lift the dead soldier who had been covered with a blanket. Mark said, "My hands went down to where his legs were, then I realised there was nothing there." These are just some of the samples of the harrowing eyewitness accounts from band members of that horrific attack on a bus full of young men returning to their place of work. They also served as a reminder of the dark times in which we all grew up in, and how important it is never to forget. Could I ask you all to remain seated and sit still for a few minutes of reflection in remembrance of these 8 young soldiers who paid the supreme sacrifice in defence of this country. Thank you. Thank you. By the 90s, our uniform changed again, this time from purple and grey to our first military-style black and red tunics with peak caps. Our style of music was also changing, and the band transitioned from blood and thunder to melody with the introduction of perks. By the millennium, the band would make a final change of uniforms to Royal Marine-style tunics and trousers, right down to the white cloth helmets. And with the introduction of stick lifting and our drum corps, we were now firmly established as a melody band, picking up awards at most places or most parades. Whilst the band had travelled extensively throughout the province to parades and competitions, and to Scotland and England for the Battle of the Boyne celebrations and Prentice Boys parades, it was always on our bucket list to go on a pilgrimage to the battlefields. So in 2011, the band would make its first trip to the Somme in Flanders, where we had the great honour of playing at the last post ceremony at the Lenin Gate in Ypres. I'm pleased to say that this wasn't our last. This July we are taking a party of 60 back to the battlefields for the 4th time, something that we'll all be looking forward to with great excitement. During the first trip in 2011, we visited many cemeteries and historical landmarks, but no visit to the Somme area would be complete without a visit to the grave of Willie McBride, who served in the 9th Battalion of the Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers and hailed from Lisleigh, County Armagh. This young soldier's name is known all over the world thanks to the singer-songwriter Eric Bogle from Australia, who sat down by his grave, put pen to paper and wrote that famous ballad, The Green Fields of France, or better known as just Willie McBride. Here to bring you his rendition of The Green Fields of France is one of our own talented musicians, Mr. Callum Lucas.
Well, how do you do, young
sweetheart behind. In some faithful hearts are your memories enshrined. But although you died back in 1916, in that faithful heart are you forever 19? Or are you a stranger without even a name, enclosed in forever behind the glass frame? In that old photograph, torn, battered, and stained, and faded to yellow in a brown leather frame. The day beat, the drum slowly, the day play, the pipe slowly, they sound the death march as he lowered you down. And did the band play the last post and chorus? And did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? Well, the sun now it shines on the green fields of France. There's a warm summer breeze makes the red poppies dance. And look how the sun shines from under the clouds. There's no gas, no barbed wire, there's no gun firing now. But here in this graveyard it's still no man's land. The countless white crosses stand mute in the sand. To a man's blind indifference to his fellow man, and a whole generation that were butchered and damned. The day beat, the drum slowly, the day play, the pipe slowly, they sound the death march as he lowered you down. And did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? Young Willie McBride, I can't help wonder why. Do those that lie here know why they died? And did they believe when they answered the call? Did they really believe that this war would end wars? Well, the sorrow, the suffering, the glory, the pain, the killing and dying was all done in vain. And for Willie McBride it all happened again, and again and again and again and again. The day beat, the drum slowly, the day play, the pipe slowly, the sound the death march as he lowered you down. And did the band play the last post and chorus? And did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? The day beat, the drum slowly, the day play, the pipe slowly, they sound the death march as he lowered you down. And did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest?
Thank you very much, Callum. That's such a moving ballad and very well performed. Here's hoping Callum will bring this guitar with him when we travel over there in July of this year again. As I mentioned earlier about grading across the province and the UK, but the highlight of our travels was back in 2019 when we were approached by the Ulster Scots Agency to represent the Ulster Scots Marching Band Fraternity at the St Patrick's Day Parade in Savannah, Georgia, USA. We went with the full support of the local community and the Royal Orders. We were very proud that we had been chosen as ambassadors to showcase our culture and heritage. Now, this was a trip of a lifetime in many respects for some of the members. It was the education about the true meaning behind the celebration of St Patrick, whilst allowing us to make connection with our kinfolk. If memory serves me correct, we are the only flute band from Northern Ireland ever to perform in the United States of America. So that's one for the record books. Now, it would also be remiss of me not to mention that for the last 46 years we have been engaged by the biggest lodge in Belfast, District Number 5, leading them each 12th of July in Belfast in the Battle of the Boyne celebration, except for the years when the 12th is in Omagh, when we stay in our hometown. Now, over this last 46 years, firm friendships have been formed. They have supported us through the bad times as well as the good times, and we're delighted some of the brethren from St Simon's LOL 821 have travelled to Omagh here this evening to be with us. Make yourselves known there, lads. That's the radio voice for the back. Give them a big round of applause, everybody. We've managed to encourage some of their members to join the band, and in fact their current drum sergeant and tutor, Mr Paul Burrows, is this year's Wishful Master. So I'll say it's extra chips on our plates at this year's 12th of July luncheon. Before I hand over to Willie Hill, who many of you will know as the famous Ulster Scots presenter at the BBC Kintra show, which is on Sunday evening. Willie has been our conductor for this last 9 years and is responsible for raising the standard of the music and playing. So if there's any mistakes later on when we perform, blame Willie. Seriously though, Willie has done a fantastic job with the Flautas, and I personally can't thank him enough for helping us to raise the standard of music and playing with the band. Willie is also, well, I don't know how to say this, Willie is also older than me. He too has dedicated his spare time to his own band, Ballyduff Silver, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he is now in his 40th year with them, and that's a milestone too. But he isn't content just helping us out. From what his good wife tells me, he's out nearly every night of the week teaching young and old. Music is his passion, and I can testify to that. So again, Willie, thank you for all you've done for us, agreeing to do compere here tonight, and I'm sure you'll be getting your own back very shortly. So without further ado, please put your hands together and give Willie a big round of applause.
Before we go any further, feedback here. Look at Kenny. Look at me. Who's older looking? Is it a hard life? Is it a hard life? But Kenny, I'll tell you how this all came about. My son-in-law Paul looks after the drums in the band. One night he says to me, "Come and listen to the band." I said, "What?" He says, "Come and listen to the band." I said, "What do you want me to come and listen to the band for?" "Just come and listen to the band." I says, "Right." So we headed off. We're ringing this curtain down, Kenny, just went in. "Get you that sorted, Kenny, come on. You're going to get the sack here." I could stand here and talk all night. We need to get this band on. Because somebody says, "Where's Ballyduff from?" We're sort of up near Belfast. But we're bringing them in from everywhere, so we do. Look at that there. And see, we got that night to Cookstown. And the parade was over, and my son-in-law said, it wasn't my son-in-law there, but anyway, "What do you think of the band?" And I says, "Well, the drummers are brilliant." "Right, okay." I says, "The flutes need sorted." "Right, okay." So David would come in, was there, and David come over. He says, "What do you think of the band?" And I says, "Great drummers, David, great. Flutes need sorted." Kenny gets this so much. "Kenny, come here. What's wrong?" I'd met Kenny a few times, because I was 14 year old, but I was a conductor of my band for a number of years in Fivertown, and we'd done a couple of things with the band. So Kenny and I sort of knew one another, and Davey says, "Right, tell him what you've just told me." I said, "What?" "Tell him what you just told me." I says, "What about Davey?" He says, "About the band." I said, "No, man, Davey, go on ahead." "That was all right." "What about the band, Kenny?" I says, "Kenny, your drummers are fantastic." "Right, okay." I says, "Your flutes need sorted out." His next line, "When will you be down?" I know it was many years ago, but anyway, it's longer than I want to imagine, but anyway. So what's saying is, I mean, we have the Loy coming on after the break, celebrating 70 years on the road. Omagh are doing 50 years on the road this year. This band here, Ballyduff Silver, actually began as a flute band, would you believe, in 1894. So they're on the road a fair wee while, so they are. They decided in 1952 to change to brass. And you're thinking, why on earth would a flute band decide to change to brass? Very simple. They decided to buy new flutes. And in 1952, it was more expensive to buy a new set of flutes than it was to buy a new set of brass instruments. Now, when you think, I'll show it to you in a wee minute or two, one of the basses in the band, the big instruments in the back, has a guts of £8,500. And you've 4 of them sitting. There's 32 grand before you start. It's not that way nowadays, the flutes are still a wee bit cheaper. But anyway, I heard a wee yarn the other day about this critter going into a house of ill repute in Ballina. And he's walking up to the door of this public house. And this boy's standing here. He says, "Excuse me, sir. Are you going in here to take drink?" And he says, "I like a wee pint on the way home." He says, "Do you know the damage that that is going to do to your body?" And he says, "Well, I'm only going to have 1 pint." He says, "No, I don't know." He says, you obviously don't realise the damage you're going to do to yourself." Well, he says, "I'm not a big drinker." He says, "But why are you preaching at me?" He says, "I am trying to turn you away from the evils of drink." He says, "Well, hang on a wee minute or two," he says. "How do you know about the evils of drink? Have you ever had drink?" He says, "It has never touched my lips." He says, "How do you know that's bad for you?" "Oh," he says, "I know a number of people," he says, "who have been affected by this demon drink." He says, "That's all I can call it, is demon drink." Well, he says, "How on earth can you stand there and preach at me about the evils of drink if you've never had a drink in your life?" Well, I'm telling you, he says, "I tell you what," he says, "I go in," he says, "and I get you a drink and you can try it." Oh, he says, "I don't know. I don't know," he says, "I just do not know." He says, "I tell you what, I'll get you one very small drink." "Right, what will it be?" He says, "It will be a local, let's say, a distilled local drink." "Oh," he says, "from where?" "Oh," he says, "just up on the north coast." "Right," he says, "okay, I'll have a go at it." He says, "Yes. Is it, what is it?" He's like, "Look, just try it." He says, "Well, tell me what," he says, "do me a favour." "What?" He says, "Can you get it in a teacup for me?" "What?" "Can you get it in a teacup? Just a very, very small amount in the bottom of the teacup." And the man goes, "It's normally in a glass." He says, "I don't care." He says, "I want this in a teacup, a very, very small measure." Right, he says, "That's okay, that is not a problem." He's into the barman, he says, "Give me a pint of heart." And he says, "A half a Bushmills." "No problem." So he says, "Can you put the Bushmills into a teacup for me?" And he looks at your man and he says, "You want the pint?" "Yeah. And this teacup with Bushmills in it?" "Mm-hmm." He says, "Tell me this, is that Presbyterian minister outside the net again?" No, don't clap. It only encourages me. But you're talking about Ulster Scots, and people say to me, "It's not a language. It's not a language." I says, "How do I mean, man? There's 3 things defining a language." "What's that?" I says, "Is it spoken?" "Yes." "Is it written down?" "Yes." "Is there a dictionary?" "In fact, there's 2 dictionaries, so there are." I says, "Therefore, it is a language." And a lot of people, when they see it written down, they go, "What on earth's that there?" You see when you say it, oh, like when I retired a few years ago. I know, you're as young as, no, I'm very young, but anyway. And my wife, she said, "Look, this will be great, Dave. We'll be able to go out for lunch and do lunch and things like that." "There, nice, lovely, dear." So we enter this new place in Ballyclare, and up on the wall, "You want it, we cook it." And I thought, right, go ahead. So the wee girl, lovely wee girl comes over. "Now, Mum, sir, what would you like?" So my wife, she had a wee fancy starter and all the rest of it. I says, "Look, just bring me something as a starter. I says, a wee bit of cheese or something. Ah, she says, not a problem, sir. What would you like for the main course? Oh, I says, I'd like a wee piece of fish. Right, okay. What would you like, sir? I said, I'd like a horse steak. Sorry, sir? I would like a horse steak. Sir, I'm not sure that we would do a horse steak. What makes you think we do horse steaks? Well, I says, wait, I tell you, there's a wee woman over in the corner looking for mare soup. See? Uh-huh. Wait a minute, I see what's going on here. And as if by magic, look at that there. Happy, smiling faces. Oh dear. We'll see what way we get on in a wee minute or two. So this is the Bally Duff's up. Morning, dear. That's it. We'll get here. Oh, you did that sort of thing. You went to the toilet first. Oh, that's awful. Well, we're going to play stuff that you might know and stuff you might not know. If you don't know it, tough.
One, two, three, four.
Who recognised that? The Lion King. Wonder who my granddaughter is. I'm surprised she wasn't up dancing around the fish like in Egypt. So she loves the Lion King. So she does. She what? Oh, sorry, she's in at the side. She's in at the side. Just well we didn't bring her out. But anyway. Well, that was I Just Can't Wait to Be King from the Lion King. So we're going to slow things down a wee bit. So before we start, hold that bass of yours up there, Craig. Alan's asleep, no, Craig's asleep. That's what I was talking about. £8.5 grand. Just work out what's sitting there tonight. You want to buy insurance, just a bit. Anyway, Mark, so we're going to slow things down and we're going to play a tune that has been done umpteen different occasions by umpteen different people. And it's called Tennessee Whiskey. And it features our soloist tonight. Now, there's only one of these in the band. The flugelhorn. And I think it's the nicest one. So it's a sort of a cross between Sam's cornet and these horn things that Rachel has got in there. Lovely, lovely sounding thing. This next piece, it's almost verging on sleazy. Ooh. Yeah, it's called, say, Tennessee Whiskey. Chris Stapleton did the most recent version of it, and it's sort of very, very laid back, and I mean laid back jazz music. So Jenny's going to play on flugelhorn, Tennessee Whiskey. We have to look the part, don't we? Oh, I don't know. Wasn't that nice? Wasn't it nearly sleazy? Even man with a pink hat, but not even go there. I think Jenny needs an army right up there. It takes guts to stand up and play a solo on your own in front of 200 odd people and hope that you play all the right notes, I'm telling you. So we're going to go now to a wee piece of film music. And the film is about a collection of ladies who work in a typing pool in America. Okay? And the stars were like Lily Tomlin and ones like that there. And about 3 weeks before the film was about to be released, all the big noises got together. And they said, we've got this, bump, 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 and we've got the theme tune. What were you doing? Why was you doing it? No, it's not my joke. They had no theme tune. So they were in a bit of a pickle. And I thought, right, what are we going to do to get a theme tune in 3 or 4 weeks before this film's released? Well, get your woman to do it. She's in it. And of course, your woman was Dolly Parton. He's gone already. Right through at the front here, and let you get a bucket for banana. So they got Dolly on the ball, and Dolly wrote the theme for this film called 9 to 5. You might know it. You might enjoy it. You just never know, but here's 9 to 5.
Working hard.
We're nearly at the end, so we are, and we're going to play a tune synonymous. It's a good word, I don't know what it means, but synonymous with a particular football team from Merseyside who are playing in the FA Cup tonight. And at the minute, I think it's still around now. Spoiling somebody's fun here. So we're going to play that particular tune called You'll Never Walk Alone. And it's actually from the musical Carousel, one of the lesser known Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals. It's a sort of it's quite a poignant one. It's a sort of, sort of reflection on life and looking forward and looking back and one things like that there. and all the rest of it. It's obviously, you'll hear it out at Anfield and all the rest of it. And it's one of those pieces that sort of, it grows on you, so it does. So just before we do something different to finish off, we're going to go to Anfield, and we're going to give you You'll Never Walk Alone.
big enough mouth to put one.
Anyway, no, the other reason we play that, what's it to do this? We lost our treasure just before Christmas. Very, very suddenly, very, very sad. And guess what his favourite football team was? Liverpool.
Liverpool.
So unfortunately, Aaron passed away just a week before Christmas, the day before his 68th birthday. But anyway, well, folks, you've heard Ballyduff Silver Band. You've heard the connection that I have with Omagh Protestant Boys. We are going to amalgamate the drum corps of Omagh Protestant Boys with Ballyduff Silver Band. And you probably thought, he didn't play a march earlier. Sure he didn't. No, he didn't. Deliberately. Because we're going to finish off the first half with the band playing Kenneth Offers on the quarter deck to be joined by the drum corps of the Omagh Protestant Boys. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed listening to the band. And if you're about up on East Antrim any day, you've nothing else to do during the summer, you might hear us playing the old notes up around there. So we're going to finish off the first half with the band, drum corps, Omagh Protestant Boys on the quarter deck. switched on. Right, bring on curtain in the boy. I know we see this. Look at that there. Huh? And so far so good, we've managed to get through until 9:05. I thought I was going to be drinking tea at 11 o'clock. Well, not by the night, I'll tell you. We'll have 10 minutes for, as the Americans say, we're going to have a conference start. Right, so if you have to do what you have to do, you've got 10 minutes, because if you're not back in 10 minutes, I'm starting to fight you. And I am not joking. If you need to go to the toilet, mention my name and you'll get a good walk. See you in 10 minutes, folks. Check. That's the longest 10 minutes I've ever had in my life. But anyway. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And we're all fretting what we're to do, what we have to do, and all the rest of it. Well, sitting behind me is a group of fine musicians. The finest from Northampton. But there's a little blot on the landscape. That is the blot. That is the infamous Valerie Quinn, a social media operator of, a social media operator of some renown, so she is. And she's also related to me, because her mummy was named after my mummy. So now you've got to admit, when it comes to the looks, Valerie got the one I didn't, but anyway. So, you'll be glad to hear that they're going to look after themselves. Robert is going to do the talking. So I'm going away for a long, long time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Loyal Accordion Band.
absolutely great to be back tonight. I think this is working now. Been a while since we've been back in Omagh, so it's great to be here. It's great to be here with the full band supporting Omagh tonight. That little piece we kicked off with was a little American march composed around the start of the 1900s by composer J.P. Sousa. It was when he left the American Marines. It was a bit of a celebration for the band that he had just left. So one from a little further away. Our next piece that we're going to move into for our set tonight originated very, very close to here. Started off as a bit of an Irish folk song and then was changed into the march style in which we know it today. Great little toe-tapping march, and it's fairly well out of skill. The next piece we're going to play tonight is one we learnt back in 2022. We had the privilege to go to the Somme and play at the Meningate, and this was one of the pieces that we played as our sacred choice that time. Really, really well known piece, often played and heard around the Remembrance weekend and Remembrance Sunday. You'll all know it, so this is our version of I Vow to Be My Country. little assistant there. No better tune to follow that up than one that will be really, really well known in this. Another wartime piece, but bringing the tempo right the way back up. Lots of opportunity to clap your hands, tap your feet, and join in as we play our version of Tipperary, and it's Long Way to Tipperary, and the second piece is Keep the Home Fires Burning. That is all in a little secret. Normally when we don't know something, there's a little bit you're not sure of. Our face might go red, or we might be a little unsure. When Valerie doesn't know what she's playing, she just starts to clap. Is that right, Valerie? She just hopes that you join in along with her to make her look bad. Anything but right. Look, most of our pieces we play tonight are really well known from composers from many, many decades ago, most of which have sadly passed away. But we're really lucky that the Lloyd's answer to our little Mozart is sitting right beside me. And when most of us a few years ago in London were freezing cold and wet, getting to do the Lord Mayor's show, this man was clearing about, thinking about how he would write a new march. And we're really lucky that a few months later, I don't even think it was a year, a few months later he produced what has become a really, really great march that we play. And this is our version of Tommy's piece to the trumpet. Don't be fooled by the smiles at him either. The next piece we're going to play, we're really lucky that we're sitting on stage as we start our 70th anniversary celebrations this year. And this is a piece that I wasn't probably about for, thankfully. I'm not that old, I'm quite young, not like people way over there. We played this in the band many years ago. You'll hear sometimes we play it as a sacred march on the road, but tonight we've slowed it down, and please enjoy Nearer Still Nearer. We are all. Just double checking where we're actually playing. This time last year, if any of you follow our social media guy's not here tonight, but he would torture you with it, he's never off it. So I'm sure you did see it this time last year. We were getting ready to compete in the Northern Ireland Open Accordion Championships. And the next piece we're about to play was the one that we brought back from the bygone era, the older members who played before. The youngest of us learnt it for the first time, probably, yeah. You'd watch what I say, I'm not getting out of here tonight. And this is a great march, really good beat to it, difficult to play, keeps the fingers going. So this is Hock Heidigsburg. I've been doing that much, taking the hand with these other two, I put the wrong music up there. It's usually easier when you have the right stuff in front of you. Had to grovel almost to get sharing galleries. Folks, it's been great to be back here. Just before we finish our last piece for the night, our very, very quiet bandmaster on the very left of the band is going to would like someone from Omagh to come just onto the stage. On behalf of our band, we would like to give them a small token of our appreciation in recognition of their anniversary year this year. Is Kenny on? And look, on behalf of the band, it's absolutely great to be down to support such a super band, well known right across the country, and all the best for this year and for the next 50 years that the band is on the road. As I said, we're about to play our last piece. Great little toe tapping one to finish up on. Please clap your hands, tap your feet, raise the roof. This is our march, Punchinello.
Still here?
Yeah.
Right, that's all right. Does anyone want to order their breakfast?
Nope.
Because seeing the band comes on, they're going to play for an hour and a half. Who said good? They don't get out at all now. No. But there are. So we're going to have one of those very, very, very quick changes to we are. I was talking with my son-in-law earlier on work. No, hold on. He doesn't work for Translink. He's employed by Translink. because apparently nobody works in Translink. Maybe they do down around here, but not here. But I know it's about right, in fact it's 100% right. But apparently they advertised for new employees quite recently. And you had to go to do this aptitude test. So they brought all these employees in, you see, and all these fancy questions and all this and the rest of it. And the wee buddy for Ballymena leaves and sits down. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for coming. And you know, you will have 3 questions to answer. Aye, no bother. Go on ahead, boy. You ask me whatever. I'll give you an answer. Go on ahead. Okay, sir. Now, you will have time to consider your answers. Just don't dash in with what you automatically comes into your head. Take your time over this. Right, he says, go on ahead, give me the first one. Okay, he says, how many seconds are there in a year? Give me that again. How many seconds are there in a year? Maybe 12. Hold on, sir. Listen to the question. How many seconds are there in a year? I tell you, 12. Sir, can you explain your answer? I did. I can. It says the 2nd of January, the 2nd of February, the 2nd. I don't know, it's worse. That's only the first question. Right. So your boy says, well, I suppose you have to give him something for that. Now, sir, your second question. Now, please listen carefully to this question. It says, now, take time for your answer, okay? Are you comfortable, sir? I did it. He says, How many days of the week begin with the letter T? He says, you're right there. 4. So, listen to the question. How many days of the week begin with the letter T? I'm telling you 4. Right, sir, can you justify your answer? Aye, date, Tuesday, Thursday, the day, the morning. So I thought, right, okay. Sir, your final question. How many D's are there in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Oh, hold on, I says, can you give me a minute or 2 with that? I'll try again. It says, how many D's are in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Sir, could you maybe think of it? Give me a minute. He says, how long? I'm working this out. 247. Now, sir, did you understand the question? Oh, I did know. That's right. And you told me to take my time, and I took my time. 247. Do you not believe me? Sir, again, can you justify your answer? I can't do it. Okay, sir. Can you tell us how you work that out? Look at this! Look at this! They didn't even bring my music out. There must be a ploy behind this. They're not going to bring my music out. They're hoping that I've forgotten it, but it's over here. I'll tell you a story. I turned up, Ballyduff Band turned up for a contest in Strabane about 10 years ago. We were having a quick rehearsal, and one of the players said to me, excuse me, before we start, I said, what? Did you bring my music? What? Did I bring your? Teacher's pet or what? He thinks he'll get away if he plays a wrong note I don't notice. Oh, actually. And I say, turned up, have you my music? I says, no, I have my music. He says, well, what are we going to do? I says, I don't know what we're going to do. Now, this is literally an hour before we're playing the contest. I had to ring a friend of mine and I says, Tommy, well, I probably know Tommy. Tommy, will you have a soprano part for music for a festival? What's wrong? I says, our player's forgotten it. Now, I will not tell you what he said down the phone. It was nothing from the Bible. That's it. But we got the part and we played. Well, we actually won the contest that day, but that shows you how long ago it was. Well, we are going to entertain you now from now until approximately midnight. So sit back and relax and enjoy the Omagh Protestant Boys Band. Well, we're going to slow things down a wee bit, and we're going to just off the west coast of Scotland to a place called the Dark Island. Okay? So imagine that you've got the gales blowing in your face and the wind's taking the skin off your head and all the rest of it. But this is a nice day. This is a nice wee calm day on the Dark Island. Now, there's people live in the Dark Island, there's about 1,200 people, okay? It's one of the most remote places in the British Isles. So this is totally different from a march. This is very slow, very calm, and very sedate. Our next wee piece is a collection of American Civil War tunes, okay? And they were used by both sides, actually. And Kenny has told me if somebody can name all of them, he's going to put up a prize. You don't think that's funny, no? Well, I'll tell you what, you know what the prize is?
What?
All-inclusive weekend in Cullybaggey. No. So have a wee listen and see if you can recognise some of these tunes, or maybe all of them. It's called The Blues and the Greys. many tunes did you recognise? No, one of them was not the Billy Boys. Before you say it. You would tell me or no. No, don't bother me here all night. Alright, right. And then we had a load of fancies on it, and those drummers are actually quite good. Give them a round of applause. And then we went into a tune called the Kosovo Mix, and it was written by a fella called Paul Teague, who is a member of the Irish Guards Corps of Drums. Now, strangely enough, he's not from here, he's from Wakefield in Yorkshire, but he's obviously a part of the Irish Guards. And he wrote that after coming back from a tour of Kosovo, and for a long, long time, we were the only band could play it. And then they started pinching it, but none of the rest of them play it as well as we do, so there. Well, assembled over here, we have three further outstanding musicians. Yes, sir, you're in on this one. Yes, that's it. I'm counting you. We've got Andy, and Jenny, and Sarah. And they're going to transport you to Combe. Where? Combe. Where's Combe? It's down in the Free State, if you want to know. Who remembers The Quiet Man, the film? That's where The Quiet Man was made, in Combe, way down, almost on the west coast. And that very famous tune from The Quiet Man is what the trio of flutes are going to play for you now. The Isle of Innisfree. quiet man and pretty woman, and if they're ever on the TV, oh, I need to watch that. And she's only seen him about 20 times, and nothing would do her 1 year. Then we'd go down to Con to see where the quiet man was filmed. And the best that was, if you know the scene where the two of them are coming out of the chapel and doing the patty fingers and all the rest of it, guess where that bit was filmed? The Presbyterian Church. That's right. I recognise this as some film of a Presbyterian Church. And I said to this wee man down the village, I says, you see the film, you know, the quiet man, yes, ancestor, and the scene from the chapel where they come out and doing that, I says, the Presbyterian Church, exactly, sir, it was the Presbyterians' fault. Anyway, so there you are. Well, we're going to go to another wee march now, and this is the White Chateau, and it was written by a boy called William Blythe. Now, this was written during the First World War, and you have to think back in those days, when troops were on the move, how did they keep them in step? Bands, right? And in those days, there wasn't an awful lot of military bands on the Western Front. They would have fifes and drums, not unlike what we have here. And this boy Blythe wrote specifically for that type of band. And the White Chateau apparently was one of the big houses, White Chateau, White House, on the Western Front, where all the big noises made the decisions during World War I. So this is the White Chateau, think back 100 years, by William Blythe. better look at the list that Kerry has given out. We're halfway through, you'll be glad to hear. There's only another 7 to go. Does anybody want tea or anything like that? Or do you need to go to the bathroom again? No? Well, folks, we have come, would you believe, at the appointed hour of 10 to 11 to our last piece.
Oh.
Come on, you can do better than that. Wait, settle yourselves. Right. We have come to our last piece. So you're getting better, but we haven't got time to improve on it now. Right, but before we do, earlier on, Kenny mentioned about the association the band has with St Simon's Lodge in Belfast. And we have quite a few of them here this evening. Make yourselves known, St Simon's Lodge.
Somebody's at the back as well.
Oh, we don't talk about him.
No, we
We
haven't.
don't talk about him.
Probably am.
Oh, I know. He's told me on a number of occasions, he says. But anyway, right. God, that's my son. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to ask the members of St Simon's Lodge to come forward as they want to make a presentation to the band to mark this momentous occasion of 50 years of the band and of the association they've had with the Lodge over the last 40 odd years. So we've had quite a night, folks. We've had the noise selling in. I don't know that you know where the noise is, but let's say, how do you put this? There's an old saying my granny would say, you're not within a bag of gown, if you know what that means. Yeah. No, Dunloy is between Ballymena and Ballymoney, God's own company. And let's say they don't have many supporters on the 12th of July morning. I can't be any more subtle than that. They don't, the band actually can't rehearse in Dunloy Hall, they have to rehearse up in Church Hall. Such is the anti-band feeling that would be in that community. So to have one of the finest marching bands in the country here tonight is indeed an honour. So, Mr. Montgomery, it's over to you. You want the mic? It's mine, you're not getting it.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Kenny, apologies, and band members, apologies for basically interrupting your concert. So I'll not take up too much of your time. I'm speaking on behalf of St Simon's 821. Our lodge has a long association with Omagh Protestant boys. I'm an ex-member myself. And as Kenny alluded to earlier on tonight, they come and they march in front of us on the 12th day, which can be anywhere between 12, 13 to 15 miles by the time you finish and you start and finish. So have you already seen our masters hiding in there? Because he should really be doing this, but wave again, Paul. That's our master. So first of all, I would like to say congratulations to Danny and the band on your 50th anniversary. I hope you have another 50. And we in 821 could not let this go by without marking it and basically doing something as a token of our esteem. So, I'm just making sure I have all the right notes. So, Stephen, can you, thank you. Kenny, if you'd like to come forward.
Oh, wow.
So, we thought in the lodge we need this to mark this event with some sort of item or thing that would be useful to the band. So what we've done, we have a ceremonial mace, and hopefully it will fit the drum major. And I think, Kenny, you do receive that on behalf of St Simon's 821. Thank you very much. And this is the person you get the most. Thank you again.
Thank you all very much. Stacey's been busy behind here doing all the PowerPoint presentations. Just before we finish off, it's great to see a brilliant audience. We're going to sell out tonight. I know there's a few people couldn't get with illness and different things, but it's great to see such a good crowd. Bands are all fantastic tonight, all different from the brass to the accordion. And, well, of course, What about Molly? We couldn't go without giving Molly a big round of applause. Now we're going to finish off with It's a Long Way to Tipperary. No, you are going to do the choir. We're going to sing.
Well, as Kenny said, we're going to finish off just a couple of wee tunes from World War I, which we'll probably play when we go to Belgium during the summer. And I must admit, I had been on a fleeting visit about 15 years ago to the battlefields, but the last time we were there in 2023, we were there for 5 days, and we did it properly. I mean, I did it properly. We went to all the major places that we visited at that time, and Kenny, of course, said to me, he says, we're going to do a wee service at the Ulster Tower. I said, right, Kenny, not a problem. He says, we'll do all the readings and we'll sing a couple of hymns, Bring the Bugle. What? He says, Bring the Bugle. I want you to do Last Post in the Valley. I says, not a problem. So we were doing all this, and Kenny, of course, gave us the citation up towards the end, and I started lifting the bugle. When I got to it there, and my hand was going like that there. I tell you, I have done hundreds and hundreds of last posts in my day, but I don't know what it was that day. It took me ages to get going. And my wife said to me, she says, what was wrong with you? She says, what? She says, what was wrong with you? What took you so long? I says, I don't know. She says, no, something not right. But that was all right. And a couple of weeks later, I met a piper up in Belfast, doing exactly the same thing. He said, well, what was the trip like? Why? I says, Mark, absolutely brilliant. He says, how'd you go on? I says, great. I said, wait, I tell you something. And I told him what had happened. I said, we're at Ulster Tower, Mark. I says, and I could not hardly get that bugle to go. And I says, well, I think a number of times I have done a last post in the valley. He says, well, I'll tell you what. He says, the same thing happened to me the first time I was there. I says, what? I mean, this is an experienced piper. He says, I'll tell you, it's the place. I went, what? He says, it's the place. And it was almost as if, see, as soon as I started playing, it was almost as if the sound was going back off the wood at me. Just cut me down almost. Brilliant. I say, I'm looking forward to going back again this year. It was a superb trip the last time we were there. This one will probably be as good, if not better, the next time. And we'll hopefully get through the main gate, because there was a bit of panic the last time. Because when we were there, the first night it was closed. Kenny wasn't a happy boy. Rumour has it there were threats made about baseball bats and things like that there. But we got through the main gate. Well, we're going to finish off with a couple of wee tunes from the First World War, and you'll probably know them. And we will be joined by the joint chorus of 821, St Simon's Male Voice Choir, and as Leonard Sachs always used to say in the good old days, and chiefly yourself. So if you want to clap your hands, stamp your feet, or even sing, please don't. Have a go. Hope you've enjoyed yourself, folks. Night night. Roughly, not to the minute, roughly. Half an hour. Where do you live? Lisbon, right, okay. You always want to take me to go home? An hour? Oh, are you blue ones?
I'm not going home.
Where are you going to, daughter?
I'm not going home.
What?
I'm not going home.
You're not going home? Ask no questions, you'll be told no lies. Anyway, well, it's going to take me an hour and 20 minutes, right? It's going to take me an hour and 20 minutes. And I need my beauty sleep, and you have to agree with it. All right. Folks, thank you very much for being a super audience. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And see you, folks. And remember, if you're driving, make sure you've got a car. Could you please be upstanding for the national anthem?
I have to speak to Kenny.